Hello, and welcome to episode 100 of How to Lose the Weight. I'm your host, Holly Toscanini. If you've ever started over and felt a little thrill, I'm not judging you. Starting over is emotionally efficient. It gives you a clean slate without requiring you to do the one thing that actually changes a life. Stay in the room when it gets uncomfortable. Because starting over isn't the problem, it's the symptom. The real problem is what's underneath it, the waiting. Waiting to feel ready, waiting to feel certain, waiting for the invisible committee to approve your decision, waiting for future you to arrive and run your life like a competent adult. And listen, if you're waiting, you're not lazy. You're actually loyal. Loyal to things like old roles, old rules, old expectations. You're loyal to being good and reasonable and low maintenance. Loyal to a version of you who learned a long time ago that wanting more might actually cost you something. But here's what I know after years of coaching women just like you. Your next chapter isn't going to start because you finally feel confident. It starts because you decide you're done postponing. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is episode 100 of How to Lose the Weight, and today is not a recap episode. I'm not going to do a sentimental highlight reel either. I'm not reading you my greatest hits like I'm on a farewell tour. This episode is something more useful. It's the foundation. It's the philosophy underneath everything I teach. It's the beginning of what this show is becoming. Because I don't want to have you just feel inspired for 20 minutes or so and then go back to living your life like it's on layaway. I want you to stop waiting, practically, consistently, and in a way that changes what you do the next time you feel yourself wobble. So let me define it. Unwaiting is self-leadership. It's the moment you stop outsourcing your life to someday and start living like you're actually the one in charge. Unwaiting is not reckless. It's not impulsive. It's not burn it all down and reinvent yourself by Tuesday. Unwaiting is quieter than that. It's you saying, I'm not going to negotiate with myself for 6 more months. I'm not going to keep researching my way out of making a decision. I'm not going to keep shrinking my desire down until it fits everybody else's comfort zone. Unwaiting is a series of small, decisive movements that prove to your nervous system, I can trust the woman driving this life. And here's what's really shifting in 2026. This podcast is becoming more than a show you listen to. It's becoming a place you can practice. We're going to talk about the real stuff women whisper to their friends, but rarely say out loud. Like why visibility in midlife feels so bloated, and how to stop being the nice, capable woman who disappears into her own life, and how to make decisions without polling the whole chat group, and how to set boundaries without a 48-hour guilt hangover. We're also going to talk about how to build a next chapter that feels like yours, not a performance. And today, right now, I'm going to give you the missing step between insight and change. A simple action structure that turns I know into I did. Because you don't need another restart. You need a relationship with yourself that doesn't collapse the minute things get real. So let's build that. If unwaiting is self-leadership, we have to talk about why waiting becomes our default. Because nobody wakes up one day and thinks, wow, today feels like a great day to quietly postpone my life. Waiting isn't a character flaw. It's usually a learned safety strategy. And for a lot of women, waiting was the smart move at some point in our lives, right? I mean, maybe you waited so you could keep the peace, or maybe you waited so you could avoid being judged, or you waited because being too much came with a lot of consequences. Or maybe you waited because you were taught that certainty comes before action. And if you didn't have certainty, especially certainty that you would succeed, you were irresponsible. So if waiting is your reflex, it's certainly not because you're weak. It's because you've practiced it so much. And I want you to hear this next part very clearly. Waiting is not indecision. It's self-protection. And sometimes it's outdated protection you just don't need anymore. So here's what I want you to name in episode 100. Every time you wait, you pay a fee. I call it the wait, and it's not paid in dollars. It's paid in things like our energy, our confidence, resentment, self-respect and that low-grade sadness you feel when you realize you've been living like you're not the main character in your own story. Because when you keep postponing what matters to you, it does something subtle and kind of brutal. You start treating your own desires like they're optional. And if you treat your desires like they're optional long enough, your life starts to feel optional. Not because you don't love your people or even your responsibilities, but because you're not in the center of your own life. And here's a pattern I see constantly with midlife women. You're not waiting because you have no ideas. You're full of ideas. You're waiting because you're trying to get a unanimous vote from some invisible committee. That committee could include your past self, maybe your mother's voice, your boss, maybe it's your ex, maybe it's the culture you were raised in. Maybe it's that one friend who thinks everything is too risky. And it could be a mysterious panel of judges who live in your nervous system, too. And you keep trying to craft a decision that offends no one. It risks nothing and guarantees approval. And I'm going to say this to you with all love. That decision doesn't exist. And midlife makes this more intense because we're carrying more history, more responsibility, more awareness, more I can't waste time urgency, and often more grief about the things we've already postponed. So our brains try to solve it by doing what it's always done. Overthink, over-research, rehearse, and wait. So let me give you just another concept that's going to explain a lot. Decision debt. Decision debt is what happens when you keep postponing a choice you already know you need to make. And the longer you carry it, the heavier everything feels because your brain is running that open tab in the background all day long. Should I stay? Should I go? Should I start? Maybe should I stop? Should I speak up? Should I change directions? Should I finally do the thing I keep saying matters the most to me? See, decision debt is exhausting. And when you're exhausted, what do? You start over. You reorganize. You get ready. You promise yourself you're going to deal with it later, which means that open tab stays open and your energy keeps leaking. And that's why this insight alone doesn't change your life. See, insight's powerful, don't get me wrong. I love a good insight. I have made entire meals out of an insight. But insight becomes a problem when it turns into a substitute for actual movement. Because you can understand your pattern perfectly and still stay in it. You can say, yes, I people please because of my childhood. Yes, I procrastinate because I'm afraid of being seen. Or yes, I stay because I'm scared of disappointing people. And then you still don't move. So the question isn't, why do I still do this? You probably already know. The question is, what is the smallest action I can take today that proves I'm the one leading now? And that's where unwaiting becomes practical. Here's the missing step between insight and real change. You don't need another plan. You need a container that turns all of your awareness into action fast. Because most women don't fail because they aren't capable. They fail because they try to change their whole life in one of two ways. First, vague intention, which makes you feel inspired but changes nothing. Or massive overhaul, which makes you feel powerful for 48 hours and then collapses under the weight of real life. Unwaiting is neither of these things. Unwaiting is small, it's decisive, and it's repeatable, which means you need a structure that doesn't require motivation and doesn't invite your brain into a 3-week negotiation. So I'm going to teach you something I really hope you're going to come back to again and again during this year. It's the Unwaiting Quick Start. Now this is reset you can do in under an hour. They can do 3 things. It gets you stuck out of that mental gridlock. It turns I've been thinking about this forever into a clear decision, and it creates immediate momentum without you needing to become a different person first. Because here is a very grown-up truth. Your life changes when your calendar changes. Not your mood, not your intention, your calendar. The Unwaiting Quick Start is the moment you stop treating what you want like a someday project and start treating it like a now priority. And just so we're clear, This is not the time where you research your next chapter. This is not the time where you make a vision board and then feel oddly smug while still doing nothing. This is the time where you do what most women avoid. You decide, and you take the first real world step. Research is not a substitute for a decision. It often just looks like fear with better lighting or a good filter. So in a second, I'm going to walk you through the Unwaiting quick start step by step. And I want you to pick one thing you've been postponing, not your whole life, just one thing. Because by the end of this episode, you won't just get it. You'll have moved. All right. This is where we stop admiring insight from a distance and actually use it. I'm going to walk you through the Unwaiting quick start in a way that you can do in real time, or you can come back to it later. Quick note. If you're driving, don't start journaling at a red light like you're in some inspirational movie montage. Just listen and come back when you're parked. Okay, having said that, if you can grab a note app or a piece of paper, great. If not, just stay with me because even hearing this structure can start to change how you think. So here's what we're doing. In under an hour, and no, it's not going to take us that long right now, you'll move from mental gridlock to one clear decision to real action that you can point to and say, I did that. Not I thought about it, not I processed it, not I researched it so thoroughly I should be awarded an honorary degree. And action. First, choose one open tab in your brain, just one, not your whole life, just one tab. And it could be something like, I don't know, the conversation you've been avoiding, or maybe that boundary you keep rehearsing but never setting, or the creative thing you keep getting ready to start, or the decision you keep circling around but never actually making. Or maybe it's the appointment you keep postponing, or the email you keep rewriting in your head like it's going to be graded. Pick the one tab open that keeps quietly draining your energy. And if you're thinking, I have 47 open tabs, yes, of course you do. You're a woman. Pick the one that feels like it is sort of humming in the background of your life constantly. All right, phase one is truth. This is not the part where you shame yourself. And it's not the part where you explain your personality either. This is the part where you tell the truth without adding a backstory, especially a tragic one. 3 prompts, short answers. Prompt 1, what am I postponing? Finish the sentence, I keep putting off, fill in the blank. Prompt 2, what is it costing me to keep postponing it? And I don't mean in theory, I mean in real life. Is it costing you energy, sleep, peace, time, money, confidence? Is it costing you that feeling of my life belongs to me? Prompt 3, what do I want on the other side of this? Not the whole fantasy, just the honest desire. I want relief. I want clarity. I want freedom. I want to stop feeling like I'm carrying this around. A lot of women treat their desires like a suggestion, like a cute idea, like something they'll earn after they've been good enough or perfect enough. Unwaiting starts when you stop treating your desire like it's a side quest. All right, phase 2 is going to be decision. Phase 1 is truth. Phase 2 is decision. This is the part where you stop renegotiating the same thing every single day. Because decision fatigue isn't coming from your busy schedule alone. It's coming from the fact that you keep reopening the same question like it's a browser tab you refuse to close. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to make one decision that moves you forward. Not the forever decision, not the what if this is wrong decision, not the let me predict every possible outcome decision either. Just the decision that creates some movement. Here are a couple of examples. I'm having that conversation. I'm sending the email. Oh, send the email. I'm booking the appointment. Or I'm setting that boundary. Or I'm starting the project small. I'm choosing a direction instead of circling it. That's a big one. Now, write this sentence. This matters. I have decided, fill in the blank. Not I'm thinking, not I'm working on it, not I'm going to try. I have decided. Because unwaiting uses leadership language, and your brain might immediately protest, and that's normal. Your brain is like a concerned HR representative. Excuse me, do we have a policy for this? Yes, the policy is we are done waiting. Are you on board? Now, a quick note here, because this is where a lot of women get kind of tangled up. A decision can feel scary and still be the right decision. Nervous is not the same as no. Sometimes you're not confused. You're just standing at the edge of a version of yourself that takes up a lot more space. And that's going to activate fear, not because something is wrong, because something is changing. Unwaiting isn't the absence of fear. It's the refusal to let fear be in charge of your calendar. All right, phase 3, first action. This is where unwaiting becomes reality. Because here's the hard truth that's also very freeing. Your life does not change because you understand yourself. It changes because you do something. So your first action needs to be a real world action, something visible and small enough that you can do it right now, today. Not preparation disguised as productivity. Got it? So let's get specific. Let's go through some things that could happen. If your decision is, I'm having that conversation, your first action could be draft the first sentence. Choose the time. Send to the text, can we talk tonight? If your decision is, I'm starting the project, well, your first action might be open the doc and write that first paragraph, or record a 2-minute voice memo, or buy the one supply you need and put it somewhere where you're going to see it. If your decision is, I'm setting the boundary, well, your first action might be write the one-line boundary script. Send that message. Or practice saying it out loud once without apologizing. If your decision is, I'm booking the appointment, your first action might be open the scheduling page, make the call, send the email, put it on the calendar. And I want to say something that will make some of you laugh and some of you slightly annoyed, which is usually how you know it's true. Thinking about the action is not the action. Neither is reorganizing your desk. Neither is opening 19 more tabs. And neither is I'm just going to do a little more research. All of that is waiting in an ill-fitting suit. So the first action that creates proof. Choose the first action. And if you're listening and thinking, I don't know what my first action is, here's the rule. It should be the smallest possible move that would make you say, okay, it has started, it has begun. Now, phase 4, you got to lock it in because the goal isn't one burst of momentum. The goal is that you don't disappear on yourself after today. So 3 steps. Schedule the next step. Yes, on your actual calendar, because if it's not scheduled, it's just a wish. Number 2, remove one friction point. What could derail you and what's the simplest way to reduce that friction? Put the shoes by the door. Put the document on your desktop. Put the number in your phone. Put the script in your notes. Things like that. Got it? Maybe put the reminder where you're going to see it every day. 3, decide your return line. This is the sentence you use when you start spiraling or negotiating. It could be something like, one step, not the whole life. Or decide, do, then decide again. Or I'm not waiting again today. Or I lead with action. Or something you make up on your own, because spiraling is where women tend to restart. So here's what I want you to understand. Doing the unwaiting quick start once doesn't make you magically confident forever, but it does something more important. It reminds your system that you are not powerless. It gives you evidence. It creates traction, and it turns your relationship with yourself into something sturdier than your mood. And that's the foundation of unwaiting. Not hype, not perfection, not a new identity, a pattern of follow-through. And this is why we're starting here, because everything we're doing next builds on this. Because once you stop waiting, a bigger question shows up. What would you say and do if you weren't managing anybody else's comfort? We're going to go there. Voice, visibility, boundaries, the good girl reflex, the ways that women get trained to self-edit. But first, you need the vehicle, and the unwaiting quick start is that vehicle. All right, pause for a second. If you did any part of that, if you named the open tab, made the decision sentence, took one real-world step, what you did is bigger than it sounds, because you didn't just get clarity. You practiced a new identity, the identity of a woman who does not postpone herself or her life. And I know that sounds dramatic, but I mean it in the least dramatic way possible. Unwaiting isn't a personality type, it's a pattern. a pattern where your life stops being something you think about and starts being something you participate in. And here is why this really matters so much. Most women are carrying around a quiet backlog of themselves, things they want to say, things they want to start, things they want to change, decisions they keep reopening like the world's most exhausting group chat. And that backlog doesn't just sit there politely. It leaks. It leaks into your confidence. It leaks into your mood. It leaks into your relationships. It leaks into the way you show up at work. And yes, it leaks into your body. That's why waiting isn't neutral. It has a cost. Remember earlier when I said the wait? Well, it gets paid whether you admit it or not. So when you take one real action, you don't just do a task. You stop the leak. You reclaim that energy. And that's what women feel when they say, I don't know what's wrong. I just feel tired. Sometimes what's wrong is simple. You're tired from living in draft mode, and it's time to hit publish. So here's the line I want you to take with you from episode 100. Starting over is relief. Unwaiting is leadership. Starting over gives you a clean slate. Unwaiting gives you a life that actually moves you forward. And if you spent years being the capable one, the reliable one, the one who holds it all together, this may be the most radical thing you do this year. You stop treating your own life like it's the thing you're going to get to later. Now, because I want this to be more than a podcast you like, I want this to be a community you feel a part of. So I'm going to ask you to do something small but powerful. Text this episode to one friend and say, listen to episode 100. I think this is us. Because when women start unwaiting together, it stops feeling like self-improvement and starts feeling like setting a new standard. And if you want to go one step further, here's your unwaiting roll call. Message me one sentence. My open tab is blank, and my first move is fill in the blank. I'm serious. I read these, and I'm going to cheer for you like the supportive friend who always refuses to let you romanticize postponing. All right, my friends, before we wrap this up, I want to make this painfully simple. If you keep starting over, it's usually not because you're confused. It's because you're still waiting for permission, waiting for proof, waiting for perfect conditions, waiting for future you to show up with a calmer nervous system, better boundaries, and a fully coordinated life plan that doesn't inconvenience anybody. And I've got news that is both annoying and freeing. Future you is not coming to rescue you. You are the one. So here's the unwaiting rule for real life. One decision, one move in the next 24 hours. Not 10 decisions, not a dramatic life overhaul, not a new era announcement especially that requires a team of stylists and a documentary crew. Just one decision, just one move, because that is how you stop living in draft mode. And if you're thinking, okay, Holly, yes, but I want structure. I want prompts. I want something I can actually follow without spiraling into a 3-day research project. Good news? I made exactly that. It's called the Unwaiting Quick Start Guide, and it's a short, practical mini course you can complete in one sitting or within a 24-hour period to get clarity and take action without overthinking yourself into another week of maybe later. Here's what you walk away with. A clean reset from the it's too late mindset, clarity on what you actually want, not what you should want, one doable next step you can take immediately, and a simple momentum boost that makes confidence feel possible again. And it's not fluff. It's not a 40-page workbook you print and then emotionally avoid. Inside, you're going to get the 3-question reframe, the 3-question clarity exercise, the 24-hour confidence challenge, and a permission slip to show up messy. Because perfection is the number one reason smart women stay stuck. And yes, I said permission slip because a shocking number of women are out there acting like they need a notarized letter to begin. So if you've been overthinking the change that you know you want, if you feel restless, stuck, or almost ready, if you want traction fast, this is for you. And if you're committed to perfection before progress, I say this with love, you're going to hate it here. You might actually finally change your life, so it could be complicated. Right now, the guide is at an introductory price of $7, but soon it's going to be $27, and the link is in the show notes. And if you grab the Quick Start Guide, send me one sentence, DM, email, carrier pigeon. I don't care. I'm flexible. My open tab was, and my next step is, because we are collecting receipts this year. Not inspirational quotes, not someday plans, receipts. And next week, we're taking this at the places women get trained to stall: voice, visibility, boundaries, and that reflex to self-edit so other people stay comfortable. We're not doing that anymore. Episode 100 is the foundation. The unwaiting era starts now. All right, friends, one decision, one move in the next 24 hours. You've got this. Now go. See you next time.